in the next 400 years, likely we're going to have a continuing trend toward decentralization. It began, some say, at the dual explosions over two Japanese cities when the Americans obliterated civilian populations in an act of state terror. And the nuclear age heralds, by the account of Martin Van Crevel, the end of the nation state's hegemony is control over the human affairs starting at about 1650. And the trend is in the direction of breaking up of these coercive centralized systems toward a more market-oriented world. And I view the rise of cryptocurrencies as a picture of this in the sector of mediums of exchange, mediums of transaction, mediums of commerce, or media of commerce, using a Bitcoin to effect a purchase as opposed to a dollar, whether it's online through PayPal or a credit card or in your hand in the form of a green rectangle. This is David Tulis, and I have a very optimistic view about this major trend, which will be very difficult, and there'll be a lot of pain and suffering attended to it. There'll be a great deal of loss of parties who are vested in the older system, in the legacy system of compulsion and coercion that is the national state. And it will be viewed by many as total anarchy, total free-for-all in this market and in that market. We see already the end of many markets, such as the newspaper industry, the cab industry, the hotel industry, all under siege from their digital rivals, in which a media platform, an internet platform, allows people to make their own decisions apart from the former gatekeepers. Now, in the banking sector, in the use of money, we have the gatekeeper, which is the central bank. Every country seems to have one. They all share alike in being fraudulent. That is to say, they issue paper notes that pretend to have value, but they are always a cheat, and they're all scrofulous, whether it's the Zimbabwe dollar that collapsed into a billion % hyperinflation in the early 2000s, or the Federal Reserve dollar, which we have, which is struggling, as the Grand Ma Yellen head figure says, to reach 2% inflation per year. It's actually much more than that. And the challenge to the banking cartels that support national governments are, how can we keep people believing in us, and how can we make war against our rivals and our challengers? The main ones are cryptocurrencies. There are many of them now. The leading one is called Bitcoin. And we have here with us Sam Spade, who is who oversees the local meetup group, the Chattanooga meetup group for Bitcoin. It's at the library, and there's a 5 o'clock pre-meeting, if you will, in which Matt Elias, I think, will be speaking, and then Sam will be speaking at 6 on Bitcoin wallets. Where is this event held, Sam?
Oh, this is the downtown public library on the 4th floor. We have probably typically about 10 or 12 people come. It's very much a beginner's group. You know, people talk to me about Bitcoin and ask me what advice I would give them. Should they run out and buy now? Is the price gone too high? Is the price gone too low?
Where is the price?
Well, right, it's almost $10,000. It's $9,900 or so dollars right now. But and the only answer I can give you for certain is that whatever it is, you need to find out about it, because this is not a passing fad. This is going to be a significant, maybe not Bitcoin, but cryptocurrencies are going to be as significant for this generation as the internet was for the last.
Well, Sam, is Bitcoin the right word, or is the word Bitcon? Now, Bitcon is the word that Mike, Confederate Mike, will offer. If I know when he hears our discussion of Bitcoin, he's going to perk up and call our number. And the number, by the way, is 800-8949. That's 800-8949. Don't let us monopolize the conversation. If you, our listener, have a question about this, or a comment, or have a banking horror story, or maybe a story about inflation eating away your savings, or anything like that, do feel free to call. The number again is 800-8949. That's 800-8949, and you'll be live with Sam Spade and me. Well, Sam, just in a nutshell, according to Mike and to Franklin Sanders, who publishes the Money Changer, a hard money newsletter, the problems with Bitcoin are shared with the paper dollar, and that is that there's no tangible value. It's not redeemable. It's not convertible. It depends. Its value. It depends on demand. In other words, the value vis-a-vis goods depends on demand and trust in it. These are simply electrons, and they spawn more electrons, just as banks with their paper dollars spawn more paper dollars into the trillions and trillions of dollars of pretended value. There's no value in the end. A dollar bill does not refer to a dollar coin, which would be in silver. It is a social construct, just like that of the central bank, and it uses coin mining and an algorithm to generate new coins. And I know you emphasized that there's a limit on the production and the output of Bitcoins. It's a fiat that it's very much like the fiat that we have in paper, the dollar that enables the superstate. And so it doesn't seem to be fundamentally different from the fiat dollar, and it appeals to technophiles, and it's under attack as a competitor to the dollar, the paper dollar. So, Sam, these are kind of the lineup of critiques of this system that intrigues many, but you're thinking it doesn't intrigue enough people, do you? What are the problems with Bitcoin?
Well, they're actually
they're arguments correct.
There are quite a few problems, none of which were on your list, though. I have to say.
Okay.
I felt your list was typical of people that don't really understand money and don't understand the implications. Let me start first.
Well, fill me in then.
All right, let me start first about the issue of money. There are really two kinds of money in the world, if you think about it. And to take the dollar as an example, there are two kinds of dollars. There is the paper dollar you hold in your hand. If you want to go to McDonald's and buy something, you give them the paper dollars. They give you a hamburger, and that's fine. Everybody's happy. But McDonald's has to deal with the second kind of dollar, which is the electronic dollar. That doesn't exist. You don't see that in the world. That's just a floating ephemeral thing out there. And the reason they have to deal with it is because their suppliers are not here in Chattanooga. They can't walk over to the McDonald's hamburger meat manufacturer and give them the dollar you gave them. They have to go to the bank and get the bank to transmit this ephemeral electronic dollar all the way over to China or wherever it is they're buying their mystery meat and produce it that way. All right. So your problem is that if you want an economy that has a huge worldwide marketplace that you can buy and sell and deal with anything in the world, right now, up until 20 or 30 years ago, you had to use the banking system because you had to transmit money electronically through the bank.
Well, the clanking sounds you heard with the third dollar, and that's silver dollars, Morgan dollars. And we have a caller, and he's calling us at 800-8949. That's 800-8949. And caller, you're on the air live with Sam Spade and me, David Tulis. What's on your mind?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to ask you for a further explanation of the definition of Bitcoin. Is it actually a coin that is supposedly representing digital money in a certain denomination, or is it just simply electronic that you access through an online account? And I'll just wait and listen to your answer.
Okay.
Thanks for the call.
There is no you can have a physical representation of Bitcoin, but that simply means that you've written down the account number or perhaps the password for the account down on a piece of paper. And in fact, that's a form of legitimate wallet. And we can talk about that if you come to the meeting tonight. We can talk about that. That's called a paper wallet. It's very, very common. But Bitcoin is really oriented towards purely electronic transfer. You have a copy of all of the transactions that have occurred in Bitcoin, encrypted on many, many, many locations, so that it's impossible for somebody to cheat, because all the other locations will say, hey, liar, liar, if they try to cheat. And so because it's a community network system, you don't have any cheaters that survive. And so when you have a Bitcoin, what you really have is an entry in this common ledger, copies of which exist all over the world, every place. There's about 10,000 of them as far as I know right now, and every one of them says you have a Bitcoin. And so if you go to anybody and say, I want to send you a Bitcoin, his computer and your computer and every other computer in the system gets the message and says, yeah, that's a legitimate transaction. We'll make that change.
And you mentioned that everybody knows, not that they know you're the caller's name or anything, or name or address. It's under a pseudonym or an avatar, I guess, right?
Right. It's actually not just one name. It's many accounts.
It's enforced, is community enforced, like eBay. If you're a bad seller on eBay, you get some demerits, and eventually you just can't make any sales. So the bad ones are weeded out by bad reviews.
It's actually not exactly that. The bad ones are weeded out immediately by the fact that they do not conform to the rules of a legitimate transaction. In other words, if I sent a message to you, David, saying that I wanted to buy your car and I was going to give you 1,000 Bitcoins for it, it's a nice car, it's worth it, I'm going to give you 1,000 Bitcoins for it. Your computer, you would never even see that message.
That's about $1 million.
You would never. That's right.
Trading value.
It's a nice car. It really is. He drives a nice car. You would never ever even see the message if I did not have the money to pay, because your computer, when it got that message, the first thing it would do is look down that list that it has access to of how much I actually have. And if it says, man, this guy's only got about 1/100th of a Bitcoin, it's going to say that message is invalid and throw it out, and you will never see it. So that's the checking and balancing that goes on in the Bitcoin system.
Well, the problem with fiat money that's depriving Chattanooga of a real future and Hamilton County of a real future, Sam, is that it's a non-referential currency. It pretends to be a dollar that refers to a coin worth 400 grains in silver held by the issuer of the paper. The one says, hey, the man who wrote this piece of paper has one on supply, and you can have the real money if you want, or you can just take the easily transportable note. This money is created all the time because there's no legal language anymore to connect the paper with the substance. There's no substance involved in Bitcoin. So it is a fiat money, just like the Federal Reserve dollar, and it's destined for destruction by the market at some point. Yes or no?
Yes and no. All right. No to the first part, which is that it's fiat money. The problem with your definition of fiat money is that fiat means I declare. The government stands up as an authority and says, this is money. I declare it's money
by decree.
By decree. And I'm going to force the banks to use only this money when they do their remote transactions. And therefore, when you go to Walmart and you want to buy something, they only require those dollars, because those paper dollars are only thing the banks will take in exchange for the electronic dollars, which they will use to buy their stuff from China. All right. So it's not fiat because nobody is declaring Bitcoin as money. Now, your statement about
fiat also, Sam, the fiat also implies ex nihilo, coming from nothing, and your answer to that is, well, Bitcoins don't come from nothing because there's an algorithm that in the mining process lets some thousands emerge by investing in computing power to mine out the algorithm. And then at some point, there'll be an end of production. That is to say, a limit in supply. The limit in supply guarantees the validity of this medium of exchange. You still have nothing at the end. You just have zeros and pluses. That's it.
You can't build your house on two foundations, and you can't build your logic discussions on two different definitions of fiat. Either it means government declares, or it means from nothing. I mean, one or the other. All right, but as far as I can see, it really means an authority declares.
Cost over $5,000. Even a simple repair to a sensor can cost over $1,000. That's why.
Go ahead. My left hand does not know what my right hand is doing, Sam. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm fiddling around. Go on.
All right. But the answer. So the answer to your question is what Bitcoin is a entry on a ledger that everybody in the Bitcoin system agrees has some value. And that's why it's money, because I can go to one of those people and say, here, I'll give you a Bitcoin. What will you give me in return? And he says, I'll give you, right now, he says, I'll give you anything worth $9,900. And that number's been going up steadily. And so the real question that people should be asking about Bitcoin is, why is it going up?
Because, and the rise, Sam also noticed the rise is a parabolic ascendancy. It's going up almost in a straight line.
Yes,
which
it is.
Tells you that it's a bubble. All bubbles have that appearance. Why is Bitcoin different?
It may be. It may be a bubble. It may be overbought. But on the other hand, if you saw Amazon going up parabolically when the stock first came out and you bought it, would that mean Amazon was in a bubble? Because it did go up very, very fast. Well, the answer is no. There's some value behind Amazon, and the parabolic increase is people realizing what the value is. And so that's really the big issue that a person looking at buying Bitcoin for a speculation.
Well, let's talk about the people in Harrison and Ottawa.
All right,
Sam. They think this is so complicated. Here I am. I don't even know how to update my operating system on my Macintosh. I have to call my son, who's a tech guru, to ask him what to do. people, they're not versed in that. People don't even know how to use WordPress on simple websites. They have to hire out to have the digits moved around on the back end of their local shop platforms. It seems so complicated. It seems so obscure. You have to be a geek to think about Bitcoin, to use Bitcoin. Isn't that a great problem for this system?
I think it's a great problem for our entire banking system. You know, it's become so complicated that nobody can understand it and nobody can figure out what's going on, and they don't know whether their money's going to disappear tomorrow and the bank is going to close. And the answer that I have for you is yes, that is an inherent problem anytime you use money that's usable for a remote transaction. You know, if I have a gold coin, if I have a dollar bill, it's in my hand. It's simple, right? If I want to deal with electronic commerce, it's complicated.
This is David Tulis, and caller, you're live on the air with me and Sam Spade. What's on your mind?
Well, after being objective and doing research on this, I think Bitcoin is worse than the Federal Reserve. I mean, it's certainly not money. It's a scam. You can't buy anything with it.
Excuse me, I can think of 3 things that I've purchased with it in my lifetime, not recently. I bought a VPN service.
Hang on, Mike. Go ahead.
I bought a VPN service out of the Seychelles. I bought a VPN service later on out of Iceland. I bought some artwork for the cover of my book out of, what's that?
Go ahead.
All right. I bought some artwork for the cover of a book.
Out of the country. That's really good for the economy.
Well, all right, so I bought a report out of Washington.
Is that
Washington State? I bought a report that I wanted to read, financial report that somebody wrote about something, and I paid him in Bitcoin.
Go ahead, Mike. What's on your mind?
And if you waited another week, you know, it would be the report would cost more. How can you contract with it? I mean, listen. You can't. No one can complain about the Federal Reserve that has Bitcoin, because the Federal Reserve has intangible objects of thought. They're just computer entries on the book, and it inflates by about 3% a year. How could you contract with Bitcoin? How can you possibly do that?
You don't write the contract in Bitcoin any more than you write the contract in gold.
If I say build me a house, Sam, and you build me a house in Bitcoin, a year later the value changes.
That's right. You don't contract in Bitcoin.
How does that work?
It's very easy. In the case of the particular book cover, for instance, that I was doing, I liked the woman's work. I said, I'll pay you $300 US for this. She says, fine. Now, she didn't get US dollars. She wanted Croatian duliwats. I don't know what the currency is in Croatia, you know, but she was in Croatia, right? And I said, I'll pay you in Bitcoin. She said, that's fine. When you get the work, if it's acceptable, right then, that exchange rate in dollars for $300, that's the amount of Bitcoin you sent me. I'm sure when she got it, she converted it immediately to the Croatian, whatever currency it is, you know, and used it.
So you're telling me that if a house costs $250,000 to build, and it takes 2 years to build, you will accept that amount of Bitcoin you agreed 2 years prior to receive in return for building that house?
Not Bitcoin, dollars. Although you may make a good point, which is that it's unclear whether dollars is a good value for that too. Because if I'm a builder, I'm not sure I want to sign a contract that says I only get paid in 2 years.
There's no ambiguity at all. For the past 100 years, it's been 3%. You can pretty much calculate how much the Fed's going to rob from you.
You can?
3% a year. There's no ambiguity.
I don't know where you get your numbers, but it's sure nothing I know of. As far as I can see, inflation is running at 8% a year, and there's plenty of good sources.
You're right. It's more like 8%, Mike.
It's not.
The official rate's under 2%, but these are jiggered numbers.
That's right. That's right. Very jiggered numbers.
I mean, it's averaging about
Shadow
3%.
Stats is a real good source. You might take a look at Shadow Stats.
If you can't contract for the service, how can you use it as a medium of exchange?
Well, you're talking right now about a problem that is affecting all money in our society because
no, not gold and silver, not gold and silver.
I don't know.
A dollar quantity of silver, and I say I'm going to give you 1,000 of these in 2 years. You can't print those.
I didn't say you could print those. I said that
that's a store of value.
The price is suppressed at the moment.
What?
Let him finish. Go ahead. Finish up, Mike. Make your point.
That value has not changed in 200 years. That silver coin is worth exactly right now as much as it was 200 years ago.
It weighs the same, and that's because money is weight, Mike. Right?
Well, money has to have the ability to extinguish. That's to have the ability, has to have a store of value, and it has to be accepted by everyone. It has to be universally accepted. If those three principles aren't applied, it can't be money, and definitions are important. There's a definition of money under the Uniform Commercial Code that is accepted internationally. And if it can't extinguish debt, it cannot be money.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Sam Spade. There is a meeting this evening of the Bitcoin meetup group at the public library at 5. It's on the 4th floor. Is that right?
Yes.
Sam, 4th floor, David Tulis, Nooga Radio. Hang on. Got some important messages.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, digital FM 95.3 HD4 and